Which paper size is the best for design sketching? Should you use that huge paper that your teacher was always telling you? Or is it okay to sketch on smaller papers? Maybe it's even better to sketch on smaller paper. Alright, as you can guess, there are different advantages for both. The biggest difference for me is the amount of detail you can put in your sketch. At the beginning of a design process, when you can be loose, when you just create ideas and generate stuff, I definitely prefer smaller paper. Because with just couple of strokes, couple of curves, you can already show your idea and the sketch looks already balanced. The line thickness of a pen and the empty spaces are very good harmony, so you can already see a nice sketch, like finished almost. It shows the main idea, the general concept, and there's no space for tiny, small details. So when you sketch on a small paper, it helps you to focus on the general silhouette of your design, and it leads to more creativity. If you start your ideation process with a big paper, sketching on a big paper already, you cannot only focus on the silhouette or the general theme of your design. When you are sketching, you will see all these empty areas on the paper because the pen will be too thin for that size of paper, and all these empty areas will start to grab your attention, like, add some more details, it looks unfinished, hey, it's so empty, just put some ideas here. So probably you will not stop after a couple of strokes and you will go into details of your sketch. It will take longer time, it will be more finished sketch, it will be more detailed sketch, and yeah, it sounds good, but it's not the best thing at the beginning of the design process, beginning of the ideation, because it will be too much done, too much finished for the first phase of design. Basically, there will be less space left for the creativity, for imagination. That's also why I created my own practice files in my car design online course, that you can see smaller sketches, smaller templates are for being more creative and putting the first idea, then you can go into bigger sketch to get into more details with the correct proportions and perspective. More details on my car design 101 online course is the link in the description. You know, in school or in a design studio, there is a very well-known story. Designers or the students hang their sketches on the wall, like big sketches, renders, finished, nicely detailed stuff. And also there are somewhere like little tiny doodles, tiny sketches with on post-it note or something. And the design boss comes and says, wow, I like this one, it has a lot of potential. It is because there's more space for imagination on this little tiny sketch. Because not all the details are resolved and everything is finished, so every creative can see it in a different vision. They can find a different positive idea in this tiny sketch. And this is a great thing for the beginning of the design phase, for the creative process. After you decided which general concept this tiny sketch is selected, then it will be time to develop it and go into more details. Now, while developing the idea, it is better to use bigger paper. I'm not talking about digital stuff because normally you can just take your tiny sketch and put it in Photoshop and scale it up and zoom into all the details and everything, but we are talking about papers in this video. So we use bigger paper to bring this creative idea and sketch it in the bigger size. This way we can go into more details and solve the problems which were invisible on this tiny sketch. Because if we started to use bigger paper, it doesn't mean the creativity finished and we just concentrate on details, because details also require creativity, and the bigger page actually gives you more freedom of movement. So you have this nice paper in front of you, all empty, and the limits are less visible. There's like no borders anymore. So for some people it's even better to draw on the bigger page, because you might feel limited on the small paper, like all the limits are visible, the borders are there, so it's maybe difficult to create new ideas there. So it's a little bit personal here, but in my opinion, for the creativity part, smaller papers are better because you don't need to dive into any details. Now let's talk about another aspect that probably you heard many times or you experienced it yourself. It is the line flow. On bigger paper, of course it's better for the line flow, for the curves, because you can use your shoulder as the pivot point and you can just draw huge long curves. It is definitely easier and more fun on bigger paper to create these smooth lines. However, after sketching cars for years, you can definitely control your line flow in any size of paper. Also nowadays we see a lot of flat cars, let's say, very sharp edges and everything, the straight lines, so maybe you don't even need curves sometimes. Next thing we need to talk about is the portability. Like if you're at home or in a studio or in a school, you can easily find and use the big papers and then store them. But if you want to carry them with you all the time, good luck. Pocket-sized sketchbooks, that small notebooks, are the best for portability, of course. You can easily carry them and sketch whenever and wherever you want. I used to carry these post-it sticky notes actually, because you don't have to carry even a thick sketchbook. You can just take a couple of papers and put it in your wallet, because you never know when you will need to sketch, right? So we talked about different aspects and the use cases of different size of papers. And personally, I use for years, like 90% of my time, something like an A4 regular size paper or even smaller papers. It gives me enough freedom for creativity and generating ideas, and it's easy to carry and more practical, because I use the process of sketching on paper mostly for creating the first idea. Then I generally jump into digital like Photoshop or even 3D like Blender and then develop the idea further quickly. I like to use big size of paper mostly for fun or just experimenting new stuff or changing the mood, but it's very rare honestly. What about you? Do you like to use these big papers or small tiny notebooks or the regular size A4? I'm really curious to see what is your approach. So write down on comments and we can see what everybody uses, right? If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to talk more about car design. See you in the next video.